We typically use Postman to manually test APIs. We send a request to an endpoint and analyze the response. However, Postman also offers an ability to automate these tests by writing JavaScript assertions on your endpoints. Let's see how we can do that. For this demo, I have a sample REST API for my service. It exposes the endpoint /locations, which is a GET request, and it returns all locations. When writing an API test in Postman, I normally take a 3-step approach. First, I test the API manually. I have a request in Postman for testing my API endpoint, get all locations. Let me hit send to see what it responds with. The second step is to understand the response returned by the API. So the response has a status code of 200 OK. It's a JSON body, it's an array of locations, and each record has a few attributes like ID, store name, and so on. Knowing this is the expected response, we can proceed to the next step, writing the actual automated test. Postman has a powerful runtime based on Node.js, which gives an ability to write JavaScript tests. These are written under the tests tab in a Postman request, and these tests are executed after you've received the response. If you look to the right in this tab, you'll notice a list of snippets available to quickly get you started writing tests. Most of the time, these are sufficient for quite a number of test scenarios. My first test will verify that the status code of the response is 200. So there is a snippet available for that. Let's use it. This will generate some code in the tests editor. Now, if you've written any form of tests in JavaScript, then this code will seem familiar, but let me explain. PM is short for Postman, and it's a global object provided by Postman. All Postman tests begin with a test function, which is exposed in the PM object. The test method takes 2 arguments. The first is the test description, which in our case is status code is 200, and the second argument is a callback function. It's in this function you make your assertions or verifications. You'll also notice that we have a single assertion right now, but you can have as many as you want. However, I like keeping assertions in separate tests most of the time. So our assertion simply checks if the response has a status code of 200. You see how it reads like English. PM responds to have status 200. This is intentional in order to allow anyone to write these tests easily. To run our test, we will send the request again. Only this time around, when Postman receives the response, it runs the test. The test results can be seen on the test results tab of the response section. So our test has passed because we got a successful response from the endpoint. Let's also try to fail this test to make sure that it's not affected by any external factor. To do that, I'll make a typo in the URL and hit send. So this should lead to a 404 not found status code, which will cause a mismatch and should fail our test. So our test is failing as we had expected. So let me undo the typo before I forget. At the moment, we have one test case checking the status of the response. Let's write another one checking if the response body is an array. I'll copy this test and modify it as per the new one. So we are verifying that response is an array. So essentially we'll get the response and verify its type. To get the response, we again use the PM object. We say pm.response, parse it as JSON. Let's capture this in a variable. Now we're checking that JSON data should be an array. So we say pm.expect. We are expecting JSON data to be an array. Again, reads so much like English. It's like writing a sentence. So let's run our scripts now. And we see that both the tests are passing. Postman also supports variables which allow you to store and reuse values in your requests and scripts. A variable can be referenced throughout collections, environments, and requests. For example, I have created a variable at the environment scope. It has the host name and the port number for my test environment. So I could use this variable in my endpoint URL. To reference this variable, it will have to be enclosed in a set of double curly braces. Just like that. On hovering over it, its details such as its scope and its values are displayed. E stands for an environment variable. So when we send this request, I'd like to show you the console. When we send this request, the variable name is replaced with its value, as we can see in the console. Postman provides a very good documentation for writing scripts and using variables. I have a few links in the presentation which I highly recommend to read. So we've been able to write 2 tests, and we could take it further. We could check the keys for each location record. We could check the number of records if that's a fixed number. Also, I've used the same request to add tests to. You could have 1 test per request as well. I've grouped my tests in folders based on the user story, and all these folders are in a collection. So we could run this collection to run all the tests at once. So just open this collection and then run. It executes all the test scripts, and I could view the summary and I could export the summary and so on. Now there's another way to run this collection which uses the command line interface. Postman offers a Node.js based CLI tool. It's called Newman. It's very straightforward to install Newman. It's built on Node.js, so make sure you have Node.js installed. On a Mac, we just run npm install -g Newman. -g is an option to install it globally, which allows you to run Newman from anywhere. Newman has been installed. We will also need to export our Postman test collection in order for it to be run with Newman. So we go to our collection and choose export from the menu. Our collection will get exported as a JSON file. Since we have an accompanying set of environment variables, we would need to export them as well. So go to the environment variables, edit, and export. These will also get exported as a JSON file. To run a collection using Newman, the command is newman run and the collection JSON file. And if there is a set of environment variables that goes along, the command is newman run collection JSON file -e and the environment variables JSON file. So we'll use the second command to run our collection. Let's go to the folder. So we'll say newman run the collection JSON file, which is this file, -e and the environment JSON file. So our tests have been executed and we see a report on the command line interface, which is the default reporting format. We could also go for a fancy HTML report. For that, an extra add-on is needed. To install that add-on, we need to install both the Newman tool and its add-on, which is called the Newman Reporter HTML extra add-on, together in the same directory. So the HTML extra add-on has been installed, and let's look at the command to use it. So the command is newman run, as usual, collections file -e environment variables file, and then We specify the reporting formats with a -r. We say we need an HTML extra report, and we're also keeping the CLI report. Then we also specify the location of the HTML extra report that's going to be generated. So let's run it with our collection. We say Newman run, collection name, -e, environment variables, and then -r, the reporting formats, which are HTML extra, CLI, and then the location of our HTML extra report. So we say QSR run 11th of September.html. So our collection has been executed, and it also used the HTML extra add-on and this particular version. So let's look at this report. Yeah. So this report gives us the iterations, the requests. It's possible to drill down into each request. So let's look at our request and the associated tests. We had 2 tests, and here they are, and they've passed. I feel that this extra add-on is well worth it, and you must try it. So we've created a Postman test collection in this video, and we've run it from the command line. In the next video, we will find out how we can leverage this CLI capability to run our tests from just about anywhere, a Docker container or even a GitHub CI pipeline. So stay tuned.